Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome founder Ian Schrager Company, Ian Schrager, in discussion with Skift Senior Hospitality Editor Deanna Ting.
Our next speaker, Ian, needs very little to no introduction, but this is going to be my very meager attempt to summarize his more than 50-year career in the hospitality and entertainment industries. So back in 1977, Ian, who was then a lawyer, and his business partner, Steve Rubel, co-founded the iconic Studio 54 nightclub in New York City. And 7 years later, in 1984, they opened the Morgan's Hotel, which was so influential in really bringing about the boutique hotel movement here in the United States. An era that really sparked hotels that were driven by design, fashion, culture, nightlife, food and beverage, and so much more. Since Morgan's Hotel, Ian has worked with Marriott to launch the Edition brand of luxury hotels all around the world. He's opening many more this year. And he also launched his own brand of hotels called Public recently. So before I begin to ask Ian a bunch of questions, I want to remind the audience to please feel free to submit any questions that you may have for Ian using our event app. Feel free to upvote the ones that you like. And thank you so much for being here, Ian. We really appreciate it. So one thing I've noticed in the conversations that we've had together is that you're constantly looking for ways to innovate and to disrupt. You are the type of person who is never content to rest on your laurels. I wanted to ask you, why do you think that is, and how are you attempting to reinvent hospitality all over again?
Well, our focus has always been on creating an experience, lifting the spirits of the people who come to the hotel. You know, we're not relying on the efficiencies of execution or the location or the current state of the market. Actually can do a hotel in any market, in any cycle, as long as it's a distinctive product, whether it's in New York or Paris or Kansas City. Because I think we should become a product-driven industry rather than the efficiencies of execution. What interests me is always going in there and doing something that astonishes people, that they feel they're in some kind of new kind of environment where there's an excitement and glamour in the air, and that's what interests me. And the payoff for me is when I see that, and to do the good product and focus on doing the good product, the money comes as a natural consequence of that.
Mm-hmm. So it's fair to say you're a bit of a perfectionist, I guess. Yeah. Another thing that I've also found really interesting is that you are not at all afraid of more technology or more automation in hospitality. In fact, you actually pretty openly embrace it, especially with the Public Hotels brand. And I wanted to ask you, why is that, and how do you see technology disrupting hospitality going forward, but for the better?
I'm not from that generation of technology. My 7-year-old son is my tech department in the house.
Your IT department. Yeah.
But I think if you just, I don't have data or anything like that, just instinctively. I think when we got started, we had to rely on things that other people weren't doing, design, food and beverage, and everything else. Now it's out there. It doesn't take people a long time to see when something is a good idea and it makes money. So now everybody is doing it, and some are doing it well, and some are not doing it so well.
Can you name who's not doing it well?
Right?
Can you name who's not doing it well?
Well,
or no.
Marriott's doing it well.
Yeah. Okay.
Some are doing it in a banal kind of way, but I think that that universe of design has less upside really blow people away. So I think technology is the future, but not mood boards in the lobby, and not iPads in every room, but technology that really makes every transaction at a hotel easier or cheaper, and there is a reason for it. Up to now, I don't feel that we've been using the technology well, and I think this issue of saying it takes away from personal contact is ridiculous. We don't mind buying our tickets in the movie theater. We don't mind getting our gas and paying for it. We love all those things they offer in the airlines. It's just a question of whether or not it's done well. It's fun to do. It razzle-dazzles the customer. So I think that's the future. And it's very difficult in this country because the various companies don't talk to each other. We're the place where all of it was invented, and you can't implement it because capitalism, nobody cooperates. So we had to go to Europe and really jerry-rig the technology, and it's too bad because the public would really benefit from having the great technology, not contrived, not necessarily Alexa or Echo in the room, but every transaction, everything that happens through the wizardry of technology is just it's the future as far as I'm concerned.
Just to make things a lot easier, do you feel like the technology that you have at Public, for instance, is it really advanced enough to really provide exceptional hospitality, or do you ever sort of worry that service standards might suffer in any way?
No. No, you're gonna have to kind of figure it out. Mm-hmm. I think, it has to work. It has to work well. I don't think the personal service do we mind getting on an Apple phone and looking up a number by not speaking to a personal operator and just kind of punching in? No, we don't mind it. Everyone in China pays by Apple Pay or whatever through their iPhone. We don't do that so much here because we have to unlearn what we've done, and in China they didn't have that obstacle. No, it depends upon how it's executed, so I think we don't really have a lot of the people in the industry don't really have a good idea, as well as me, on how that's supposed to work. So we just, computers in the room, iPads in the room, even though everybody travels with their own technology, all this kind of stuff that to me doesn't do anything.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Are there certain particular technologies that have caught your eye and that you do think have sort of feasibility in the hospitality experience?
I think the check-in process and the check-out process could be absolutely frictionless. And the time cut down, to nothing. I think getting your bills. I think communicating with the customer before they get there, communicating with the customer while they're there, as long as you don't inundate them. I think communicating with the customer after they leave, those are all great things. I think being able to, order your food, your wine and everything, doing in a great way, and then be able to walk downstairs and the food's on the table. I think not being able to pay for everything, which is an issue because of the different platforms. I think everything that you can do over the technology, provided you can get it done quickly, is just a great thing. And I think the things like the mood boards in the lobby and stuff like that is a kind of waste of time. Yeah. Nobody uses them. The kids play with them. So, like for instance, people say that the young kids don't need to go to bars because everybody is dating over the technology.
Those apps.
Right.
It's
The apps.
Tinder, like.
So I'm not sure that's true, by the way. You know, I think there's no replacement, you know, for going to a bar and things like that. But I wouldn't mind doing that swipe left, swipe right for people in the hotel.
We might have our next startup idea.
You have to figure it out. But we can't sit still and let everybody else do it, and we, you know, follow everybody. So we have to, you know, we have to figure it out. And I think the technology is the new frontier. And we were just talking backstage, I think it's so great that the Marriott is trying the self-check-in in Hawaii, because it is the future.
Right.
So I just think it's all about technology going forward.
And speaking of the future, I wanted to ask you, you know, what do you sort of see as the next big disruption in lodging? You already played a very pivotal role in one big disruption, which was the boutique hotel. But what's the next boutique hotel? Is it Airbnb? Is it something else?
You know, I think the way we market and advertise is a big disruption coming down the pike. You know, usually, I don't know. I think the marketing expense in a hotel can be anywhere between 3 to 8%, I suppose. A lot of that is with the sales effort, but I think the advertising and the direct mail is not effective. And you know, I think using social media is an incredibly valuable tool, and it doesn't cost anything. So, you know, I think that's an area that we all have to get better at, and we find using it more and more and more. You know, like at a very effective price point. So I think that's the next big thing, and I also think, you know, I don't have any data to support this. You know, I also think that the societies, the middle class is shrinking, and you're having the wealthy people, more than the 1%, other wealthy people, and you're having the people that don't have as much wealth with less of a middle class. Well, I think hotels need to follow that. You know, and I think there may be hotels that are super luxury. There used to be 800 rooms, and now the sweet spot was 300 rooms. You know, that may come down to 70 or 80 rooms, really expensive in a luxury hotel. And hotels that bring a whole bunch of new energy and sophistication and style and food and beverage into the less expensive market, and it'll be those two groups, and not as much in the middle, which is the way we're going the way humanity is going.
Right.
So, you know, so that's why I am very interested in the less expensive market, which is always the biggest money-making market anyways.
Right, that bifurcation and
Right.
things is sort of what prompted you to launch Public.
Yes.
So speaking of society, I mean, you've been such a part of our like the fabric of our social lexicon for so long. And just next week, you have a documentary coming out about Studio 54, and we have a brief little clip to show everyone here in the audience to give you a little bit of a sneak peek.
Oh, no?
Yes, I hope so.
When you walk through those blacked out doors, you're in another world.
I remember getting past the doorman, and there was a carpeted, looked like almost a runway, and it was mirrored.
Boom, boom, boom. The sound of the music down the hall.
There was a rush to get to the dance floor, just a rush.
The full blast of the sound, you know, just came over you in a big wave.
nothing to do with that.
You definitely did. Something I've always wanted to ask you is, do you think something like a Studio 54 could exist today?
Yes, I do. You know, there are, when, you know, we did a documentary, you know, with Matt Turner on that, and, you know, he was the filmmaker, he wasn't there. He doesn't think it could be done today because, you know, the cell phones, the dating apps, you know, the AIDS, there's a whole bunch of different cultural differences, but I don't agree. You know, I think that human urge has been going on for 5,000 years. It takes, so serious about this, it takes on different, you know, iterations. Cars change, kitchen appliances change, fashion changes, but it's still, the basic premise is still the same. So you have to find out the new fashion for it and how it kind of works. But, you know, like there are two places in the world where it is happening still. It's the new nightclubs that are in East Berlin. They don't let you take the iPhone in there. You know, so everybody can have this feeling of privacy and freedom. And in Ibiza, it's that kind of mayhem over the dance floor. So I do think it can exist, but it takes a younger person to come up with another idea. You know, it's a young person's business. But I definitely think it can, and we do it in the additions because it helps the hotel. So, and we have smaller versions of it, but, and we see glimpses of that energy, that legal naughty behavior, you know, so yes, we don't change, we have a human condition, you know, so.
Well, one of your former Studio 54 patrons now happens to be the President of the United States. And I know you and Donald Trump go way back, and you consider him a friend, but I wanted to ask you, you know, what are your thoughts on his administration's policies, especially his policies that relate to travel, like the travel ban, for instance?
From the presidential office? From the president?
Yes.
You know, I think it's very, very bad for the business. It's very un-American. You know, I don't want to get myself in trouble here. You know, I don't think it's good for business. I don't think we should be fighting with Canada. I don't think, you know, we should be doing all these things. But, you know, I don't know. And, you know, I know Donald for a long time from New York. He's a hard-working guy. He's very smart. I think it's difficult for an entrepreneur who does things impulsively, instinctively. He's not afraid of making a mistake. You know, to run a big country like it would be to run a big company. You know, so I think people, you know, like Arnie Sorensen, Bob Iger, the guy who runs Starbucks, Bloomberg, those guys, they run big companies, they can run the country. I don't think the skill set of an entrepreneur is the right skill set for running the country, and I think a lot of the things that are happening are not good. But even if some of the things, like the tax breaks and the real estate things, benefit me personally, I don't think it's good for the country, and I think it's having an effect, you know, on business, especially international travel.
I know when we were talking backstage, you sort of described our country kind of being divided. And you know, when you think of today's society and culture and all the upheaval and the transition that we're going through right now, what with the political divisions, the Me Too movement, just so many fundamental cultural changes taking place, I wanted to ask you, you know, what's the solution here? Can you see a solution here?
It's scary. Very concerning to me. You know, it's so funny. I have a 7-year-old son, and I watch all the cartoons again, and there's this cartoon Wall-E. If anybody's seen it out there, you have young kids, and in there, the entity that runs everything is this huge business. The big boy markets, it's called. So funny, kind of visionary, because I look at Google and Amazon and Apple and all those. I don't know. This splintering of everything is just, it's very concerning to me. You know, whether or not there's a little more of it's like broke, like with Congress, you know. There have been times when there have been difficulties in Congress and they didn't get along. There were even fights. It took 38 votes to get Thomas Jefferson elected. But it's nothing like what's going on now, and it's just a real concern for me. I don't know how to respond to it. I don't know where it's going to end. Sometimes I think it can end well. So it's a difficult time. I'm more unsettled about what's going on now than I was during the 60s, when there was, upheaval and violence everywhere. I could understand the upheaval and the violence. I can't understand everything that's going on now, and it's a concern for me. And I worry that maybe Fabio might run for president next time.
I was thinking about this, in previous interviews that I've listened to you've often described yourself as, you don't see yourself per se as a hotelier, but you see yourself as more of someone who works in the entertainment business. And I was wondering, do you sort of see a role for yourself in your place in hospitality as providing some sort of respite from what's going on, or some sort of escape, or?
It's so funny. The best benefit I got out of studio was that I didn't have any discernible product, and I had the same liquor, the same music that everybody else had. So, therefore, it was the kind of magic that we could create that made it successful. Steve Jobs did that with the iPhone. Walt Disney did that with the animation. So I consider myself more in the entertainment business than I do as a hotelier. Although that's what I love to do, and I love doing hotels, and it's been very expansive for me working with Marriott, a real learning curve. I like to think, I would hope to think that that the more sensitive design aspirations of everybody, and benefit the people, benefit the public, kind of made a difference with that. And I still love doing hotels. If I didn't, I wouldn't do them anymore. But I still have something to say. I don't like to do nightclubs anymore because I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything new to offer. But I still love the hotel world.
That's great. And I think we have time for just one audience question. So we're going to do the most popular one, which is, what is the number one thing that hotels get wrong?
Well, yeah, I think, now I think it's, that it doesn't morph into a business, and we forget that we're really hosts, taking care of people, that they come into your home and entertaining them like the way they would be if they were a guest in your home. I think sometimes, that gets lost in all the RevPAR and all the other objective criteria we use. And second to that, I think because it's such a capital-intensive industry, it's hard to innovate. I think we make a mistake, if we don't innovate, because your business can either be based upon a great price, or it can be based upon great service. We've done that, but we're not doing enough in the area of innovation. And I think that's why we go through these cycles. You know, like I'm not talking the economic cycles. I mean, you know, like the 30-year cycles. And now we're on design, and you know, we kill it, and what's the next thing? So, you know, I would, and that's why I think a lot of the small independents are doing that, and it's a good thing. And I think it's a good thing that a lot of the companies are getting involved with the small independents. But so I think the lack of innovation and the lack of charm, the people come into your hotel and they feel they're in a special place, is what we need to do better and better.
Well, thank you so much, Ian. We're out of time,
Thank you.
unfortunately, but thank you so much for
Thank you.
being here.
Thank you.